one thing you said that was interesting was, one of your articles is about the question of wokeness. And you are, you're a critic of the woke in some way, but you have an interesting angle on it. And so you say things, you said something like in your article that, these these Gulf Arab monarchies are becoming more woke. Um, and the idea is sort of there's a spectrum here from like Saudi Arabia to like the Berkeley, the campus of UC Berkeley, or something like that, or the streets of Portland, or whatever. Is that how you sort of see the wokeness issue? Because I don't see it as exactly like that. I see wokeness as more, and maybe this is just a way for me to oppose wokeness without supporting having to support Saudi social customs or whatever. I think that the better sort of view is there is an obsession with there's obsession with an equality of there's an obsession of creating equality of results, a blank slatist commitment to explaining differences between groups. And I don't see that as on the same sort of spectrum as, say, Saudi Arabian gender segregation. Can you defend sort of thinking about wokeness in sort of this, very, very broad spectral terms?
Well, I would say look at wokeness as a whole. It has many bad effects, like encouraging people to think about equality of outcomes far too much. And it has a bunch of good effects, like raising people's awareness of, say, gay rights. So in Singapore, they just reaffirmed gay marriage is illegal, and they also made it very hard to reform that. People who are woke, whether you want to include that in the definition of woke or just empirically observe, the woke, like almost always, are quite against that. And the woke there are correct. Most of the world should be more woke. So how can you be totally against the woke?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I think wokeness has been bad for American campuses? Absolutely. For US politics, I would say complicated, but the good thing about the woke is just they help their opponents more than they help themselves. Kind of, if you just take them straight up, it's been bad. It might be good in this roundabout, indirect way.
Mm-hmm.
But look, the world as a whole, I've been to over 100 countries. Most of them should be more woke. I was just back from India, been to Pakistan. I just don't doubt that. It's hard. It's hard for me to see why that isn't self-evident.
Mm-hmm. Have you had
experience? The bad parts of the package deal, yes, I would prefer to unbundle the package, but it would still be better if they got more of the package.
Do you think? I don't know how much experience you had with sort of lower class Americans, lower middle class Americans. Would you apply that? Would you apply that analysis to them too? Do you think they should be more quote unquote woke?
Many. My family started off as lower middle class. You could even say lower class. They didn't end up that way by the time I was, say, 18 or 20. But that is my background. And if I think of, say, my sister, who is gay and was gay, it was very hard for her to come out. If I think of my high school in the 1970s, the rate of gay people in that high school is probably about the same as what the rate would be now. But not one person felt they could come out. That just seems to me extremely wrong. It has on average been worse in lower middle class culture in this country. And yeah, those people should be more woke.
Mm-hmm. Do you think? Well, do you think that? I mean, just sort of flag. You said the number of gay people are probably the same then as now. According to surveys, not that there was a report from CSPI that you probably saw that the number of young people identifying as gay is like 5 times or something.
A lot of that's just posturing. People who actually want to live, a life where they are primarily gay or bisexual. I'm not saying it's exactly the same. I don't know. But there were plenty of people back then who were gay. This I know. And since then, most of them have come out, and for the better. But at that time, it was not possible to do so. And their lives were made miserable, often for decades. And that was a failing of this country not being woke enough.
So I tend to take sort of the rationalist view on these things. I'm not a person who says if people are grossed out by something, it should be banned. In most cases, there's just bad cultural practices that we should get beyond. On this question in particular, I wonder if there was a kind of Chesterton's fence kind of thing, because when people were arguing against gay marriage, 20 years ago, they said it would break down a society, it would break down gender roles, it would create confusion. And then if you sort of look at, what's happened, just very soon after gay marriage, it's like all of human history until like, 2010 or so, 11, we don't have any we don't have any gay marriage. And then we have acceptance of gay marriage. And within a decade, we have, skyrocketing rates of depression. We have concentrated in people who are liberal, people who identify as
They're not
LGBT.
liberal, they're illiberal, but please continue.
They're left wing, right? Self-identify
Yeah.
as left wing, and so maybe society had some wisdom here in suppressing something that could easily get out of control and make every. I understand there's a minority of gay people who want to live their lives as they see fit, but maybe that was sort of sort of suppressing that was the price to pay for sort of this sense of normalcy and for encouraging what works for most people most of the time. Is that a view you'd be sympathetic to?
I don't think that would pass a causal identification test. So legalizing gay marriage, causally, it seems to me, made marriage somewhat stronger, reaffirmed traditional values, and took away some interesting, but probably better left taken away parts of promiscuous male gay culture. Those seem to me the causal effects. Now, I do think what happened is we got a whole bunch of social trends together, like the good side of woke, the bad side of woke. The good side of woke legalized gay marriage. The bad side of woke did a bunch of other bad things, but it wasn't legalizing gay marriage that led to the bad things. That seems to me really extremely unlikely.
Yeah. Yeah, I would not single out the legalizing gay marriage. I think the sort of the I think the civil rights law has a huge role to play here, and I always thought that creating new identity groups, I think, is just a bad thing. It leads to things like government coming in, telling school you can, I think that just leads to issues with freedom of association, freedom of speech. Once you go down that path, I think you get a lot of the problems we see today. Yeah, but I wouldn't put it all on gay marriage. I would have taken gay marriage as a sort of as a compromise, not to have not to have the anti-discrimination laws, which I think are much more problematic. But yeah, I get your point. I wouldn't put it all on gay marriage. Um,
But
okay.
I wouldn't put any of it on gay marriage, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. It's hard. I sort of think you had to take it as a bundle. If you put me back 15 years ago and you said, "Are you pro or anti-gay marriage?" I would have said, I would have maybe this compromise I would be happy with. But I think there's a bundle coming, and I think it's going to be more bad than good. So it's part of that bundle. It's just sort of the most visible of the issues that were included in that bundle.
I like to work to unpack the bundle. But part of the unpacking is to defend the good parts
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
criticize the bad, and gay marriage is one of the good parts.
Yeah. Got it.